Namaskar everyone. This is Shekhar here again with a new. We had already talked about different chakras, bij mantras, lam, vam, ram, yam, hum, and om. Now, so we had done up to the throat, actually the Vishuddhi chakra. Now it's time for us to delve on om, which is the vibration, sound vibration of um, um, Agya chakra and crown chakra, the Sahasrara chakra. Okay, so this is what I would like to. This Om is basically the the total sum of A U M, or you can say A, U, and not ma. It is mm. It's pronounced as ng. If you call it ng, that's what it is. So it is a so let's dissect the this triplet code as usual. Let's talk about it. So I offer this presentation at my guru's feet. There have been several gurus I have had, and it's they have been fantastic. And this the outcome of this talk is the summation of what I have learned from them. So it's nothing is mine. Okay, so just let me be very clear about it. Nothing is mine. It is always, it flowed into me and through their grace, and that's what it is about. So Upanishads, there are also a list of gurus over there, declare that the essence of human, the evolution of this human species is all about speech. As basically, they started to talk only when they started to walk. So walking and talking are simultaneous in many ways. So the essence of speech is Rig Veda, and the essence of Rig Veda is Samveda, and the essence of Samveda is Om. So let's discuss how we can best use Om for our. It's not just that it is locked up into Upanishads. It should not be locked up into Upanishads or Samveda or anywhere. It, neither should it be just a divine sound, and yeah, it's there. Divine is, it's something is divine, like something out there, not with us. So that should also not. How can we use that to evolve ourselves consciously? That's the essential concept, that a thought that I had, and I said, okay, if I cannot use Om for my own evolution and development, how great, howsoever great that sound is, I still am not getting benefited from it. So let's talk about that. As usual, we see that from rat to cat to chimpanzee and to humans, the only thing that evolved the most is this frontal cortex. Okay, so frontal cortex, or in fact, it is still developing further, and Om is the only way out for us humans to develop further. There is no body physiology or any other body parts which is more relevant and more important than the brain, and that too the frontal cortex. Rest is all we have inherited from our even go beyond little earlier reptilian brain. We have inherited that. So that is always there with us. That not going to work do any difference. But how we handle this frontal cortex is the most important thing to worry about right now. So similar triplet code AUM is our code, but the triplet code in molecular biology, which I have studied all my life, was discovered by Nierenberg, Leder, and Khorana, Hargobind Khorana in 1996. In 1966, they deciphered that the 64 RNA 3-letter code words, codons they call it, they all work for all the 20 amino acids in different permutation and combinations, different codons, this 3 codon A, U, G maybe. Okay, so adenine and guanine nucleotides, if they pair up in such similar fashion, or in different fashion, they code for specific amino acid which forms the entire protein structure that we have. So it is a fantastic discovery, and they have this figured out how this particular three amino acid codes can form the entire body plan. So if that is the case, then Om must be having something very, very infinitely superior thing that is happening for us. Now, in these nucleotides, there cannot be any intonations, or you call it set of frequencies. But Om, since it is a sound, it can have intonations, and it can also have what you call overtones. Intonations and overtones are possible in Om, AUM. So that's the power of that. So you can create as many, in not just 20 amino acids here, but you can create as many outcomes. In our case, we can call it outcome. And where can those outcome reside? It's in the brain, because brain is specifically geared for that type of vibrational frequencies. Now I have just put these as two different intonations. When let's say if you sound AUM as the same flat frequencies, or a higher frequency, no, a lower frequency, and M at a very high frequency, A as a low frequency, M as a high frequency, and M at low frequency, or A as high and M as high but U as low frequency. Different combinations can exist in our by the way we can use our apparatus. Okay. So the letter of the Sanskrit alphabet allows these letters A, E, U, A, I, O, Au, all these are Sanskrit alphabet. Now all these letters, these vowels or any other letter, any Sanskrit letters, they allow human mind to interface with the primal energies of cosmic intelligence and receive its deeper insights. This is coming from Upanishads. Actually, somebody who has translated Upanishads into English and others, they say that they have never understood, they have never appreciated. They said that Sanskrit is the most unappreciated language for growth of humankind. Most unappreciated language. And they said this fellow was discovering, and he was blown out. He said, my goodness, what's going on here? He was talking about linguistic understanding and psycholinguistic and all those things they were thinking about, and they found that Sanskrit has those kind of alphabets which can interface. It has a mind can interface with cosmic intelligence through these words or through these alphabets. Now there are vowels, as you know. I just talked about A, E, U, A, I, O, Au, Aha. The is the This is the Om. This is the one, right? And it is when you call it Om, or Aum. Aum has much more power than Om. So if you hear somebody saying Aum, he is very true. I was very taken aback when Sadhguru had in one of his videos have chanted Aum, and I said, what is this? I have never heard Aum. I researched why he's saying Om, and we'll talk about it in future, just in few slides. So each type of sound has spiritual and yogic implications. All these have yogic implications. Vowels represent consciousness, spirit, the Shiva principle. Now this is coming from real Upanishadic texts. That's why I'm just trying to do my best to explain this. Vowels, all these vowels A, E, they represent consciousness or the Shiva principle, right? Or Purusha principle, Purush and Prakriti, Shiva and Parvati, that type of thing, right? In the Tantric tradition, it is Shiva principle and the Indra principle in the Vedic thought, right? And in In Advait Vedanta, it has other implications. So there is a lot of, let's say, for instance, the Brahma principle is are these vowels. The vowels are the essence of sound and vibration. They are not just sound; it has vibration and a continuous and independent and enduring in their resonance. So that's the power of this. When you take vowels and combine each vowel with any other vowel, it becomes even stronger. The higher the matra, the if you go higher toward the right, you will see the power increase. So when we say om gang, gang means this particular is coming, namaha, aha. This is visarga and this is anuswar. So anuswar and visarga, if it is more towards the right side, it has more power to it, much more intense energy into it. Um, okay, so most powerful Sanskrit seed month like Om and Aim are vowels predominant for this reason. They allow our energy to open and expand and ascend to a higher level. When we pronounce, when you chant or pronounce these words, these vowels itself has. But if you combine them with other vowels or even consonants, they all these the combined words or combined notations of vowels and consonant make much more higher impact as far as energetics are concerned. Consonants, as you said, yara, lava, sha, all, and so on, right? There are some sibilants and semi-consonants and other. I'm not going to dwell on that, but I'm just giving you a very rough idea about. They represent Shakti principles. If vowels are the Purush and the Shiva principle, this is the Prakriti or the Shakti principle, and consonants serve to focus the pure sound quality of the vowel. That's a this is a subservient to vowels. It adds beauty and adds much more weight and energy. The energy is coming from these. Okay, so and then they have the definitive expression, and while the vowel represent eternal power, consonants are the form which manifest in the limited field of time, though they may reflect higher qualities. So these are the couple of things one should know, and let me just talk about these guys just a little bit. I'll be talking mostly on because that is the basis of everything. I'll talk about O, because when we say om is when you add o and this is the sound for Agya Chakra. When you say aum, aw and then this becomes the Sahasra Chakra sound. So remember that when we are, if we, om is also correct and aum is also correct, but aum has more power because it has more matra into it, more towards the right. So this particular chart, of course, I have the content I have stolen from Sant Naneshwar Maharaj Amritanubhav. Amritanubhav is the place where I stole this from, and he talks about wonderful, brilliant. Like he's on and on. He talks about it. So it was a fantastic read for me. My mother gave it to me, that book, and I said it took me a long time to read it, but I finally read it. So anyway, that was helpful. So what happens is there are different kind of speech, vak, different kind of speech, right? One speech is when, like, if you're sitting quietly, right? Raman Maharshi speaks, but he is in Turiya state. So it is the speech which is before the perturbation happens. Let's imagine an ocean, right? Absolutely still and no vibration at all. That is called para, or the transcendent or the Turiya state of speech, right? And that is absolute silence, and it is always in samadhi state. So they are always in samadhi. Now Pashyanti is just started, just it is going to come up to the surface for perturbation. It is not there, but it is just about to come. it is at the thought level also. It is absolutely at the thought and contemplative level. It is not even manifested yet. It is almost there. In Parashakti, in the Para speech, it is always at the basement. I mean, it is no vibrations. This is inner vibration is happening, but it is not yet come up. Madhyama is the pranic speech. It is mostly, say for instance, when you are about to say Om, let's say, let's demonstrate this. When you are about to say Om, the very intention is the para, right? Nothing has happened yet. Intention is there, because you cannot say a word without intending first, and intending is most of the time subconscious, right? It's not conscious, but subconscious directs the consciousness to start something. So when you say Pashyanti, it has no value, no meaning, nothing, right? So Vaikhari, this is Vaikhari, right? U is Madhyama, and Pashyanti is O or Au. So that's how it moves. So vibrationally, it is from here up outside. From here it is outside. So when it is Vaikhari, we are in right now I am talking is audible speech. The pranic speech is much more deeper. It is perturbation is there. If you map the brain of the person who is in Madhyama, he will say vibrational frequencies just the way it exists in audible speech, but there is no sound. In Pashyanti, it is just about to happen, but not happened yet. So let's talk about A. The short vowel A. A would be a is the longer one. In Sanskrit, the short vowel A or A is pronounced deep in the back of the throat. Anybody who has pronounced it is coming from here, like the English A as in another, right? Another. It vibrates the neck, the lungs, heart, and the body, and drawing the energy down and in, right? The longer A, there is another A in Sanskrit which is as father, fa, right? A is here, one matra additional. So it requires much more significant opening of the throat. So that is the beauty of when you say there is much more energy imparted through the entire bodies, and the lung and the heart and the neck all vibrate. So A represents the absolute, infinite, pure being and the void. This is imagine Agnya Chakra. That's the place it is sitting there. Okay, it sounds like this. Energetic wise, it has pure when you discuss in terms of energetics, then what happens? It represents pure existence and simple affirmation, like a simple negation, and a bare illumination and unmanifested self. So at that point in time, in the energetics level, this is yet over here. It has not manifested yet, right? Manifestation is when the sound starts from here and travels all the way into the mouth and outside. That's called manifestation. So it is still at that level of throat. So hence it is unmanifest. Okay. At the spiritual level, it says it is an absolute, right? Pure consciousness, or Parabrahma in Vedantic terms, or the Supreme Shiva in the Tantric literature. In the physical level, it is the top and the back of the head. Actually, it is this side. This side, actually, it's not frontal lobe, but it is much more towards the center part. Remember, I was talking about in my earlier talks, I had mentioned about that red area, just that area, as well as little at the back of the head. So that is the physical location for this kind of a uh, when you say that's those are the areas which lights up in PET scan and all that. Okay. In psychological terms, is a deeper consciousness, the source of mind and prana and the primal self, right? And in terms of yoga, it promotes pratyahara, meditation, samadhi, detachment, and the crown energy. Now this activates the crown chakra. Remember that. And this is the if anybody has done Yog Nidra sincerely, you will know what I'm talking about. This is the place. Yog Nidra directly reaches to the Agnya Chakra. That is powerful. Now, if you go one matra above, long vowel, right? One more matra. Now you are pronouncing Om, like O in the yoke, right? In energetic terms, it is the Shiva energy manifest and the unmanifest, affirmative, ascending. These are the qualities, the energetic qualities of this O, right? Or the Sanskrit word O in and the long vowel O, right? But the beauty of Sanskrit that there are specific symbols for each sound, but in English you just cannot. O is O. The only thing is how do you pronounce it? Is it in the yoke or is it in uh, in other ways? So A has to have a very different what do you call uh, you have to use that in a particular word in order to appreciate what it really was. In spiritual terms, it O represent universal ruling power, the entire cosmic intelligence, essentially guiding and expanding force. In physical terms, it is coming from upper jaw, right? Prana, mouth, opens the prana in the head and the spine. That is the power. See that? It opens, if you say oh, you have to feel it. When you say oh, just sit someday in a basement and just chant oh, and you know where it is, where the energy is flowing. You will know it. I'm telling you, we have to try this. I to be when I'm so I'm crazy in such manners that I go and try it out. So I sit in the basement sometimes in a long time, whole night I might sit there and just okay, let me find out what it is all about. So that craziness has to be there in order to appreciate this kind of thing, because it is written there and we have no idea how. What do they mean? They have no. And now this science is subjective science. It has nothing to do with printouts and okay, where do I find this answer? No, it's not Google. You can't Google it. You have to go inside to figure it out. So that's the power of this subjective science. Is you are the judge. You are the man. If you don't do it, you can get it. You cannot get anything. Somebody else has done it. No, it's you have to do it again. So anyway, in psychological term, it clears the mental and emotional fields. That is powerful stuff. I tell you what, anybody who chants just oh, I don't care what, he will never have emotional or mental challenges, because it connect you connect your mind to the higher self automatically when you chant this. So can you believe the what will be the power when you chant Om or Aum? Oh, yoga. In terms of yoga, it denotes knowledge, devotion, unity, pranayama, and energizes all the yogas. Yeah, that's why when they say chant Om before you do Yog Nidra, chant Om before you do any pranayam. Why? Because it energizes all the subsequent yogas and pranayams. Beautiful. So Om. So this was the Agya Chakra Om that I was talking to you about, and this is basically the Om that we know of when we pronounce Om. This is what I was taught in my whole life till couple of months ago when I heard Sadhguru talking about Aum. I said, what is he talking? Aum. He is talking not O, he is talking Ao. And that's how I got interested in understanding. Maybe he's talking something higher than I, and I have no idea what that is. And eventually I found out why he was doing that, because I had to go into Sanskrit grammar to find out. So anyway, so okay, so om, o plus now is not ma. It final sound comes as ma, but it is ng. If in English it will be calling ng. Mm, that's what it is. Not ma. It is ng. Okay. So this particular thing will free you of self-imposed limitations due to conditionings. So now it is for psychology students, this particular thing is gold mine. Is You can go and dig into it and for 10 years and still cannot come up with satisfying answers. You might think it might take some lifetime to figure it out. Self-imposed limitations, it frees you from your own conditioning. We have been conditioned forever, actually self conditioned or conditioned by society or parents or teachers or whatever, right? This causes a limitation and self imposed limitation actually, and this is how we start to define ourselves. Anything that defines us is a limitation, and that limitation has to be destroyed once and for all if we want to live real free life, freeing you to live from the perspective of higher self. This is this statement, you can't even comprehend cashing it. It is impossible. Even the world's worth, entire wealth cannot come close to this kind of a statement. This is powerful stuff. Now, there's another one which there's u, o, and u. Now, because these are the small things that exist in that om, right? That's why I'm taking care of. So o, u, o, and these are the things that I am going to discuss. Of course, I have a book which have all these kind of things, greatness about every possible vowels and consonants and semi-consonants and sibilants and whole lot. So, but I'm not going to detail that out. It's so difficult to understand. Anyway, so u represents like the sound is as in flute, F-L-U-T-U, u. A, e, u. This is an u. U is with a matra, u matra, that is higher, the longer vowel, right? So when you say Durga, du, that is the higher matra one. Okay. So in energetics, it denotes vibration. Ooh. So when you curl your mouth like this, the sound that goes is coming like uh, a whirlpool. Remember that? That's how the vibration works in when you chant oo. And it is basically now work started. The effort, action, development, progress. This is which means the whirlpool is started to move. It has to have a direction now. So that's what oo represents, direction, effort, vibration, work. This is what it is all about. Duty. When you say duty, you is there. So there you are. So that's what it is all about. In terms of spiritual understanding, it represents expansive force. See, any whirl is, it might look like if you stir a magnetic bar inside a water beaker, and so there is a whirl which is formed, and whirl can go any direct at lengths you have no, in oceans and in rivers and all that. There are whirls. This just keeps going for miles together. So inside, so that it has a tremendous expansive and penetrating power, ascending to a newer dimension. This is who does that. And as far as physical understanding is concerned, it represents right ear, hearing, perception, and circulation of energies. So I mean, they call it is they call purusha, the entire purusha. When you do puja and all that, you astraya fat and all, if you touch the ear, to this that, to the forehead, touch all that stuff, the entire body, anganyas they call it, the whole body plan that they do as a cosmic Brahma, in the form of human being, right? So in that, the O represent the right ear. Okay. In psychological terms, it is intuition and prana and comprehension and mental grasp. Mental grasping power comes from this U. Remember that. Comprehension and mental grasp come from U. And in terms of, in yogic language, you call it perceptive listening. Perceptive listening is 100% total attention to the person we are talking to. Not not that kind of listening which presupposes the answer that the other person might want, and you are planning your answers before you are listening to that person. That is wrong listening. I have done that many times. So perceptive listening is coming from the power of U, the knowledge, peripheral awareness, learning, the capability to learn new things, formless meditation. That is a one thing which I struggled a lot. What is formless meditation? Because I could not do the meditation without form. But the formless only comes after the form is transcended. So it trans the trans how the transcendence happens. It is through the power of U itself throws you out of the formless, a form to the formless. So Au, the long vowel of, you can call it AU, more power and more energy than O, right? Om is as if it is out, out, AU, out. That type of a pronunciation it is. Energetic, full expansion of divine energy and consciousness. Full expansion of divine energy and consciousness. You have to pronounce Au, just Au. Just keep pronouncing Au, Au, Au. You, after some time, you will see the energetics develop in you. It is the Shiva principle. Now, what is that? The Shakti is from the all the way, from the base all the way to the right. It is a travel from Shakti principle to the Shiva principle. So it is in full expression and pervading the universe. This is Au, Au. And how do you do that? Lower teeth and jaw is a primary prana of mouth, and face in full expression is the physical manifestation of Au, Au. Psychologically, it is an expansive aspect of mind and prana. When you call Sat, Chit and Anand, Chit is Au. It is an expansive of Sat. When the Sat is expansive in its nature, it is called Chit, because you know it now. The knowledge of the Sat, the knowledge of the truth is Chit actually, and this is the expansive nature of mind and prana. In yoga, Ao promotes contemplation, affirmation, and pranayam and samadhi. The real power in pranayam and samadhi comes from Ao. So when Sriji talks about or anywhere the meditation classes happen, they do Aum or Om. Aum is much more powerful than Om. Both are fine. Both are the same, because one is at Agya Chakra and another one is the Sahasra Chakra. It doesn't matter. They are both equally good. For initiation, Om is fine. But when you are really advanced, you understand what is the power of Aum. You will know it yourself. Now Anuswara, that's how it is. It is. It has. It is. It is. Anuswaraschanta rupam binduruttara rupam nada sandhanam sanhita sandh. So we saw it in Atharva Shirša. These are the things that exist. So when they say om gam ganap om gam, this is how is coming from, right? The sound is a nasal sound, as in om, drawing in of a sound and merging into the mind. That's what it is. In energetic terms, it holds and harmonizes, internalizes, dissolving within. It is, oh, I can't explain to you how much beautiful this is. This is good stuff. The thing is, you have to try it yourself. I really cannot explain the expression what I am feeling right now. Cannot explain. So that when I say today's this talk is going to be difficult for me because I am not able to explain it what I am feeling inside. But you have to do it. This is a subjective science. I am telling you, this is nothing to do with objectivity or whatever. It is pure subjective science. 100%. We have always talked about unknown in terms of known, right? And then we try to know the unknown by partially assuming something, and then you know it, and then there is this unknown thing that I am today dwelling on, and eventually it will become like unknowable. Anything that is unknowable, yeah, you cannot do. If you ask Raman Maharshi any question, he look into you as if he is looking through you, and that's where it's unknowable. So there is nothing you cannot. You have to become that in order to know that. But then you are not there. Then anyway, in spiritual parlance, it means merger in the deity, being, or in the absolute Shiva. Top of the head, it is right here. Right. In psychological terms, it represents mind, deep feeling, and profound knowing. It is not knowledge, remember, profound knowing, not knowledge. Knowledge is still something away from us, different than us. But when knowing happens, it is us, it is the thing. And in terms of yoga, it promotes contemplation, mergence, and internalization, detachment, and samadhi. So, with all said and done, let's talk about the Om. Aum is this. This will bring you into alignment with your higher self, your path, life path, and absolute. This is the power of Om. This is Sahasra Chakra. We have gone. When anything that comes higher matra, it gains more power. So now, Om Namah Shivaya. 2 dots are there. Om Gang Ganapataye Namaha. Namaha. Maha. When you have this vowel attached to that, it is most powerful. This aha, visarga, release. Can you believe that it has more power than the Om itself? It has more power than Om. So Om Namah Shivaya. Om Ganapataye Namaha. Namaha. That aha, visarga, is very important in understanding the power of all the mantras. Anywhere, any mantra having this 2 dots coming out, maha, aha, ah, that is visarga. And this is binduruttar, and this is visarga. So visarga has much more power. It releases completely. Now, frequency. Now, when you talk about, there are a couple of people who have questioned my my understanding in many ways. They said, "What do you call about A? Why you talk about energy? I said, well, what do you mean by energy?" I said, E is equal to h nu. Nu is the frequency, right? And you know that frequency is, in sound there are frequencies, right? Yes. Then what is the problem? So every sound has energy. When h is the Planck's constant, E is equal to the E is proportional to the frequency. Then higher the frequency, the higher the energy. Simple as that. Now if you have this particular normal situation, just simple om. But if you take om intonation with this one, let's say you have increased the more frequency higher. When you say oh, you have given the energy to oh, it is a different intonation. When you said you are giving intonation inside your tongue itself, giving you a lot of intonation. So that has a reverberance quality to it, and it has much higher energy, and it can go on and on and on and on. That's why simple om chanting and om with intonation is two different ball game. Now, how do we use this knowledge to? That's the real the essence of the topic today. Uh, how do we reprogram by act? Now, this is a to do technique, to do list. It has less about all the other stuff, but let's do this. There are 18 chapters to it. Now, if Ved Vyas was asked, but if Vyas was a yogi instead of Vedantist, and if he was asked not to write Bhagavad Gita but to write concept of Om as a yogi would understand, or people who do yogasanas or pranayam in yoga science, how would he do that? This is the 18 chapters that he will do. So this is the chapter I have made, but I'm not a yogi nor a Ved Vyas. So anyway, pardon me for this 18 chapter. If you think I have done it, I have not done anything. I just put together this thing, okay? So before you do this whatever I am going to be talking about, if you do not do Bhrastika, Kapalbhati, Anulom Vinom. Now why I am saying is, whenever you do this, if your both the nostrils are not open properly, please do not do this. Stop it right there and move, and go back to Anulom Vilom or Bhrastika, Kapalbhati, Anulom. They in some very high powered schools of yogic sciences, they do not let you do anything, not even pranayam, not only anything other than not even Surya Namaskar, if you do not clear this Anulom Vilom and both the nostrils are working properly. Anybody who will do anything which I am going to talk about right now without their nostrils open will suffer adverse consequences. This is a warning. Please don't do it. Go back and make sure that both the nostrils are open. And I have already talked about how to open the both the nostrils. You keep two balls here, one ball here, one ball here, and sit like this and do some deep breathing. Automatically it will open up. However, you should have both the nostrils open for at least 1 hour to do all that stuff. So please don't do it. Then the 5th chapter starts with neck rotation, because this is the place. This is the most important thing. It connects our brain to the entire body and spinal cord. Hence, this has to, and if this is constricted for some reason, or if there is a pain in the neck or whatever that is, then it is not going to happen. It's not going to work. So please make sure this neck rotation exercise is taken care of properly. I'm going to be talking about. Then I'll be talking about the deep breathing, exhale and say like ha ha ha. Now I'll be using and energizing the fingers and the thumb both. Today itself I'll show you, demonstrate a little bit, but you have to do it in a involved manner to create the energetics in your fingertips. Each fingertips is endowed by the existence, and each fingertips has 4,000 nerve fibers. 4,000 nerve fibers are at the tip tip is very powerful tool in the thing that I'm going to be talking about. Then you have to put the charged, bioenergetically charged or bioelectromagnetism, because whenever any charges move, magnetism always happen there. If you understand Faraday law of electromagnetic induction, anywhere there is charge movement, there is always electrical field. So if you energize it and make it more charge, then the blood flow and all that, then the charge that flows into from these, this extremely high surface area, so powerful, and much more energy can flow out of even finger. If you touch that to somebody after having charge, they will feel the shock. That much I can tell you. Okay, then you have to do, instead of putting it somebody else's finger, you have to put it on your own this thing head at the fontanelle level. I'll tell you what it fontanelle is. Fontanelle is this: if you put your, just at the eyebrow, you put it your hand here and another hand like this at the point where that's the fontanelle, and you will see there is a dip, a slight dip in the skull. That's the fontanelle area, and that is the entry point for all the energy that you can harness in your fingers into that system. I'll tell you what. And then I will talk about understanding. It means understanding with fun. It means understanding. Okay. So left right brain talking. Why is it important? That's what I said. When both the nostrils are not open, the right, if the only the left nostril is open, it only your right brain is functioning. If your right nostril is open, then only the left one is functioning. So if you go around in the world doing this thing with one nostril open, what you'll land up facing is like, you are highly, if your left nostril was open and you did all this, you will become lunatic, because right, you become highly emotional lunatic type of personality. Or if your right nostril is open, you go all the way logical, doubting everybody, trying to ask questions, and for no, just for the heck of questions, those kind of behavior can happen. So that's why you have to have both the brain functioning. And the beauty is, we have to make the left brain talk to left brain talk to right brain, and right brain talk to left brain, so that unity and talking to themselves has to happen. If they are not talking, forget about how to operate in the world. You cannot. You will land up in challenges all the more. Intonations of or in intonation, and and overtones of overtones of like just like a Tibetan chanting and all that. So these are the couple of and the ending exercise that we are going to be doing. So neck rotation. This is how you sit when you're doing the neck. Sit in Padmasana or Sukhasana. Keep this like this, right, and keep this in your, just below the navel, just below the navel, the belly button, just below it. That's the one which you have to squeeze inside when you are exhaling, right? So the neck rotation is this: when you sit like this, and then I'll tell you what to do. Yes, first you do is inhale, sit like this, right, like this in your, and inhale, so what I am doing is I'm pushing it. While I'm exhaling, I'm pushing it harder and harder and harder and harder, all the way, right? This is number one. And then what you do is you turn to the left deep. While you're turning left, you inhale, and when you're coming out, you just say ooh. Do this, right? Then you go bend backward. Inhale and bend backward. and pronounce E while exhaling. E. That way, right? And then you go bend down and inhale. It is difficult. Inhaling while bending down is not easy, right? And when you're coming out, when you're bringing back your head again, back again, then you chant So this is one cycle. You can do 5 to 10 cycles depending on how much time you have or whatever. So this is one exercise, very important, very in Brahma Mudra that has to be done. What the goal is to press your abdomen all the way to the spine, all the way, touch it, like almost touch it, so that every part of your exhalation has to happen while sitting straight. And then what you do is inhale deeply, like this, all that. So this is number 3. Number 7, energizing the fingers. Now what you do is energizing the fingers. I mean, I will be putting this entire thing in a toolkit where I am putting do's and don'ts. I am not going to mentioning here. I'll put that in the. So what you do is put your hands across like this. Hold your one thumb like this, right? And turn it like this, so that your this thumb is touching the center of the palm of the other hand, like this, right? And do deep breathing focused here on your thumb, this pressing it here, this doing like this. Do 10 deep breathing and then go to the next one. Same, this particular thumb touching this center does not change, only thing changes is finger changing now. So there you are. And if you want to do this, the best way is to bend it like this, so that you can press it hard against this, like this. Okay, there you are, like this. You can see the position. This is how it is. And sit like this. And deep breathing 5-10 times. 10 times is best. Deep breathing. Again, go back to the third. You will see your finger charged after this. I am telling you, it is not easy. I'm not kidding here. This is a fact. This is powerful stuff. Okay. And then you breathe into, you breathe into your fingers. You talk about Bruce Lee's and all that. These people have power in their fingertips. It is true. They had power in the fingertip because they did some of these things. So, okay. This is very ancient science. This is not new. I'm not creating my own here. I'm just pulling it together. Okay. So same with this, same with this on all that. So in the same around here, do it like this. And once this thumb is pressing here, don't move it. Just keep changing your fingers. That's it. And do 10 times. 10 breathing, 10 breathing, 10 breathing. Deep breathing, and there you are. And this is charged now. Now what you do with this? Now every finger which is charged has the magnetic field clockwise and anti-clockwise. Thumb has a clockwise movement, and fingers, the next index finger has anti-clockwise, the middle finger is clockwise, anti-clockwise, clockwise. This is the energetics. Now you'll say, how do you know energetic wise? Have you read Fleming's law and Maxwell law in electricity and magnetism in high school? That's where it's at. It's not new. This is the fact. If you have 200 nerve fibers running current microvolts here, do you think electromagnetism might in some very dilute form might be there? But still is there. But when you energize it, it starts to manifest much more, right? So there you are. So this particular thing is not something which I have, which is pure physics. Everybody should know this by now. I think everybody learned Faraday and Maxwell law. Sorry, Fleming's law and Maxwell's law, but they kind of forget, and they constantly ask me this question: how do you know this? I say, you have forgotten physics then. Anyway, this is how you keep it. After having charged, keep right here. The fontanelle, remember? This, and there you are. Now you put it like this. So this is the area. This is the area of fontanelle. This particular area, which is a soft part, it has a little. This suture is just little bit oblique in nature. The reason it is oblique in nature is because this is the place where the motor cortex and the sensory cortex separates. That's why this place. Okay. Now, why this place? Because people have started to use magnetotherapy to treat depression. And this is how they found out that if you put magnet right here, the electrical activity, electrical activity increases in the places where you keep the magnet. So we are doing the same thing, but we are creating our own magnet. We are not worried about, because I don't know how much, what kind of a Tesla that they have in the to create that magnetism or magnetic field, which might have adverse effect also. But we are using our own body's own magnetism, because then body will synthesize the exact amount of magnetism that is required for your well-being, not more, not less. That's the intelligence of the body, right? Now this is how you do it. Put the hand on the fontanelle, deep breathing, 21 counts. Inhalation, inhale all the way, 1, 2, inhale. Mentally count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, all the way to the 21, and hold. Hold 21. Exhale 21. Hold 21. Repeat 5 times. This is deep inhalation. Seriously deep inhalation. So 21 is the magic number here. Only then you will feel a difference in the energetics of your brain and spinal cord. Anybody who does this, multiple sclerosis is gone. I am seriously telling you. You cannot have depression. You cannot afford to have schizophrenia. You cannot have any challenges with mental challenge. No mental challenges can ever come close even you do this. Powerful. Now, understanding. Why understanding? Understanding is understanding with one, right? So what you do is, Itopu Karnakam is this. If you hold your left lobe, earlobe, with your right hand and right earlobe with your left hand, and pull real hard, like as if you have committed some major crime in your class. Really, you have hurt somebody so deep and the teacher is punishing you. That level of intense, you push harder. Pull it as much as possible, and deep breathing. Keep doing the deep breathing. Deep breathing. This is the understanding. Okay. Now, why you say this particular area is important? Here is everything. If you do this or do this and do all the ear exercises, you will feel energized right away. Now, this particular spot that I have focused here is the area of for the activation of the whole brain activation. Remember, whole brain activation. It does. This is the place I am talking about. This area. This whole, if people have vertigo, this vertigo can be solved by pulling the ears, and brain, the entire brain activation can happen. You can wake up almost if you just do this. Now, why I was talking about this particular area is, if you do a cross section like this, right? Like this. So the part which is facing beyond the screen, let's say, is the frontal sensory cortex. The motor cortex. Part which is going towards me or towards you is your sensory cortex, and this is how the demarcation is happening, right? This particular area is basically separated, actually separated. So if you put your energy there, it automatically goes deep inside, right? Instead of putting it here, if you put it here, your hands, the magnetic field is going to go submerge deeper, right, like this. And this is the humunculus cortex, which represent different parts of your sensory cortex. Sensory cortex and the motor cortex, both left side and right side, this is controlled by the left side of the brain, and this is controlled by the right side of the brain. So this is how this whole thing works. And every part of the body is represented there. So when you are doing this, when you sending the magnetic wave, magnetic energy through the fontanelle, which is the soft part of the brain where this whole thing separates, and this is easily accessible, you are providing the energy to all these centers, which will never degenerate or which will never have any problem in the future. Now, having said that, why did I, after okay, this is good enough, why you want me to hold here? But the thing is, we have to, this particular area, the green part that you're saying is here, is your corpus callosum. This corpus callosum is defective in autistic kids, or anybody who has personality disorders, I would say. This particular thing is not functional. Now, if corpus callosum is not functioning well, what is happening is the left brain is not talking well with the right brain. So you take decisions which have no logic sometimes, or you take so much logical decisions that you just forget that there is emotional component. So emotional quotient and intelligent quotients, they are two different quotients. The left brain is all left intelligent quotient, IQ, and the right brain is the emotional quotient. They talk about emotional. Remember Daniel, what's his name? Some guy who talked about emotional quotient. So this particular thing, communicating to each other, is so important. If you do not have this communication going, you cannot talk to other person. It is not possible. You will be misunderstood always. Whatever, have you ever experienced this? I talk to somebody and that fellow doesn't understand. Number one, that I talk to somebody, fellow understand completely different. How many people have experienced this? It is purely because it is not their fault. Of course, it is our fault. It is our fault means our this particular corpus callosum is not activated enough, which means our ears have not been pulled enough. Okay, so we have to pull our own ears then. If we have not been pulled by our parents or teachers, here they will go to court if you do that to the kids. But okay, let them pull their own. So that's good enough. So we can allow that to happen. Anyway, so this is what it is all about. The left brain controls logical, is focused on analysis, responsible language skills, speech controls, control speech, and memorizing facts and the names, and reading and writing abilities, and the mathematical abilities. And of course mathematical has, I don't agree with this particular thing on that the left brain only is mathematical. No, right brain, it is also right brain dominant people also are very, very creative mathematicians, and they are specialized in sequential processes. If you go to somebody's house, and if that lady of the house is left dominant, she will have all these things arranged in a very specific order or format, and if you touch that, they will notice it right away that you have touched it. Those kind of left brain people. So and then if this is a overtly strong, which means if you do all that I told just now, then this will become stronger. And if you're right, if you're left, if the right nostril is open, the left brain will function very well and much more stronger, and then you will become manipulative, you will become dominant, over analytical, doubtful, dry, and almost non-loving person. This is what happens when you have too much left brain dominance. Too much, okay, right brain does focused on intuition, creativity, and synthesis, and spatial orientation, and imagination, and all the good stuff that happen. Oh, beautiful. I love this. Now, Excessive can go the wrong way. They become very careless. They say, La La Land, they live in La La Land. Ah, yeah, no big deal. These fellows, oh, no way. La La Land, no way. These fellows, all the time La La Land. So they are good in their own way, it's nice. But they become very careless, very emotional, highly emotional. Then this small thing they get touchy, very touch me not plant. They can get touchy in instant, in a second. If you walk past them and don't say hello, they say, my God, he hurt my feelings. He hurt my feelings today. This is what will happen if you are extremely right hemisphere dominance. Unrealistic, too attached, too possessive. This is the problem if this right side is overtly developed. Hence, this is important. And why it is important? Like this, corpus callosum interaction, activation of that particular part of the brain which talks to this both together. Very, very, very important aspect. Arjuna asked Sri Krishna in chapter 2, he says, what is being equanimous? Sthita pragyasya ka bhasha, samadhistasya keshava, sthitihi kim prabhasheta, kimasita vrajeta kim. Up, if you would like to, he wanted to know what is equanimous, what is balanced in language of neuroscience, or in language of all the pranayams and all the good stuff that we are doing, anulom vilom, alternative nostril breathing and all that. Equanimous means left brain talking to right brain. That's it. So I'll ask again this question: what is being equanimous for all of us? Left brain talking to right brain. How? Pull your ears. What will it do? It will make connections from right to left by enhancing the nerve bundle. It is a bundle. Actually, it is a huge bundle. It is a big rope type bundle, which connects to every part, is connected to the left part and the right part. So they talk to each other and then they come up to a conclusion. So this is called intuitive intelligence, not just intellect. Intuitive intelligence, which is it is much more spatial and much, you can foresee things coming. So those things. Anyway, what's the time right now? Am I okay? Bit time? Oh my God, this is too much. I'll finish it fast. 10. This is intonation. It in high frequency. So what you do is swallow your saliva 3 times. Put your index finger in the temple area like this, and you close your ears, and you produce a very high frequency E sound. This kind of thing, by actually constricting your throat, and do it 4 times, 5 times, whatever is available with you. This is very high frequency intonation. Okay, so do this. Then then what you do is one right hand on your forehead and left hand on your back like this, and press it hard, and close your mouth, and take deep breathing, and do dum 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 dum. This is Durga mantra actually. Durga mantra is Om Dung Durgaya Namaha. So dung 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 dung. This vibration itself, you will feel it. The reason I am putting this thing here is to make you feel the vibration. It is extreme. It reverberates inside your brain and activates every part of your brain. Right now, the biggest challenge is we are not using our entire brain for whatever that we are doing. We are just using like a spaceship to plow the field of to grow some popcorn. I mean corn. So this is exactly what we have spaceship with us, and we are plowing that, using that to plow the field. Of course, it will do the job, but we are misusing it. So right now, how do we use our brain is the goal, right? This is what you do. You do this, and it will be fantastic. And anyway, intonation, Brahmari Pranayam, you know it, right? And you can use overtones. Now, how you do overtone? I'll demonstrate one. Do Brahmari Pranayam with the way we do, but at the same time chant Om, the entire Om inside your mouth without opening your mouth. How do you do that? First, Turn your tongue all the way and touch it to the soft part, like this. And then rotate your tongue like this across the hard part, again back to the soft part, again. I'll show you. Please listen to the sound. Put the hand over here for the just for the demonstration purpose. Have you heard of Tibetan people chanting some? This is how they do it. They do the overtones and high frequency, low frequency, all the frequencies from all the way up to from the back of the mouth all the way to the tip of your just close to the teeth. That entire vibration frequencies, they scan it and they create overtones and if you continue to do that, you will feel, oh, fantastic. So anyway, this is one part, and put your eyeballs up low and chant Om. Om. Na, don't chant Om. Na. Om, 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 Om. If you heard Tanpura, Sa Pa Sa, if you just keep playing that, it just sounds like that. Om, 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 Om. This. Now, do the same thing with your mouth closed. That type of thing, right? So I'll just I'll share with you this. It is not coming. Anyway, I had a Tibetan chant here just to show you, but it is not coming. Anyway, don't worry. Oh, there you are. This is not any instrument. So this is coming from the one. The way they do it is this, rotating the tongue back and forth, and this is how they do it. So that what happens is, as they scan from backward to all the way to the front, they create the entire intonation, entire spectrum of vibrations, different frequencies, and not just intonation, but they create overtones also. That's beautiful. So okay, and this is some of the things which I just wrote it down. It is easy. It is to summing up the ending part of it. So it is like, hold your tip of the nose and do forceful breathing, because tip of the nose contain lot of, this is the highest surface area in our body. We'll have that, this ears and this nose. So press hard, and then you will get activation of breathing after breathing. And of course, do this. Press it harder like this. Now this particular thing is connected to the eye, because it crosses those, one of the nucleus, suprachiasmatic nucleus in the region of the brain, which is just above the thalamus, right? So the thalamus contains the night cycle and the day wakeful cycle and all that good stuff. So anyway, do 10 times that. Rub the forehead with like this in clockwise direction, like this, right? And rub your palm all the way. This is ending. This is it. This is the last thing. And then rub your face, as not like this, like this, as if there is some crazy glue stuck in your thing and you have to take it out. That type of craziness you have to, like this, and then you are perfect. There you are. Thank you so much.